I'm Claire Whitmore, 29, and I work as a glorified receptionist in my own family's empire. Not because I have to, not because I need the money, but because I made a promise to a dying woman and some promises you can't break even when they're slowly killing you. Whitmore & Co. isn't just a company, it's a fucking dynasty. Multi-generational private conglomerate based in Dallas with tentacles reaching into finance, real estate, healthcare. The kind of old money that doesn't need to prove itself anymore because everyone already knows the name. My family built this. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and now my three older siblings run it like they were born wearing crowns. Jack Whitmore, 40, current CEO, Harvard grad, golden boy, the kind of man who walks into rooms and everyone automatically assumes he belongs there. Charismatic as hell, smart as a whip, and completely convinced that success is his birthright. Elise Whitmore Davidson, 37, CMO. Elegant in that effortless way rich women perfect, the kind who gets photographed at charity galas and somehow always looks like she stepped out of Vogue. She's on magazine covers, sits on boards, married a hedge fund prince. Nate Whitmore, 34, CFO. Cold as January in Alaska, numbers driven to the point where I'm not sure he has a pulse. Yale MBA, lives and breathes spreadsheets, treats human emotions like inefficient variables and equations. And then there's me, the afterthought, the mistake, the one they describe as sensitive and too idealistic and not leadership material when they think I can't hear them. I studied business at UT Austin State School. Not Ivy League like my siblings. When I graduated, they offered me a job in building management coordination. Fancy words for receptionist duties, handling lease paperwork, and making sure the coffee machine stays stocked. I'm not on the company's internal leadership chart. During family events, I'm the one they ask to help take coats, organize gift bags, handle logistics. Because Claire's so detail-oriented, they say. Like being detail-oriented is a polite way of saying not important enough for real work. The worst part, I let them. I smile when Jack introduces me to business contacts as our Claire. She keeps everything running smoothly. I nod when Elise mentions how helpful I am with organizing events. I take notes during family meetings where they discuss strategy and never ask for my input, because of a promise I made 7 years ago. Mom was dying, pancreatic cancer, the kind that takes you fast and brutal, no time to ease into acceptance. I was 22, fresh out of college, ready to take a job offer from an investment firm in Austin, ready to build my own life away from the family pressure cooker, but Mom called me to her bedside 2 weeks before she died. "Claire," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You're the only one who can hold this family together without making anyone feel threatened." I wanted to laugh. Me, hold together a family of titans who barely noticed I existed? "You're quiet, but you see everything," she continued. "You understand people in ways your siblings don't. Don't walk away from them even if they can't see you yet." Her fingers gripped mine with surprising strength. "Promise me you'll stay close. That you won't give up on this family. They need you more than they know." So I promised. What else do you do when your dying mother begs you to keep the family together? I took the job at Whitmore & Co., moved into the little apartment above the garage at the family estate, became the invisible daughter who handles details while her siblings make decisions. 7 years of being treated like hired help in my own family's company. 7 years of Claire, can you handle the catering for the board meeting? And Claire, the printer on the 3rd floor is acting up again. And Claire, do we have enough parking passes for the investor conference? 7 years of sitting in my little office on the 2nd floor, filing reports and coordinating maintenance schedules while my siblings run board meetings 3 floors above me. The breaking point came at our annual New Year's retreat in Aspen. The whole family gathered in Jack's ridiculous ski lodge, drinking expensive wine and talking about expansion plans for the new year. I was sitting quietly in the corner, taking notes on catering preferences for upcoming events, when Jack decided to give his traditional year-in-review speech. "Each of us brought something special to the company this year," he said, gesturing with his wine glass. "Elise landed the Morrison healthcare account, Nate restructured our debt portfolio and saved us millions, I negotiated the Peterson merger." Then he looked at me with that patronizing smile I'd learned to hate. "Even Claire contributed, I believe she managed some front desk renovations last quarter." Everyone laughed. Polite family laughter that felt like tiny knives. I smiled, nodded, took another sip of wine, but inside something cracked. I'd been working at Whitmore & Co. for 7 years. 7 years of proving myself, of handling complex building management issues, of quietly managing relationships with our biggest landlords and property management companies. 7 years of learning every detail of our real estate portfolio while my family thought I was just answering phones and ordering office supplies. 7 years of being invisible. That night I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, and made a decision. I couldn't break my promise to Mom, but I could change what staying close to family looked like. If they wanted to treat me like I was invisible, I'd use that invisibility. If they thought I was just handling minor details, I'd show them what details really mattered. If they assumed I knew nothing about business, I'd build something they couldn't ignore. The next morning, I flew back to Dallas and got to work, not on filing reports or coordinating building maintenance, on building my own empire right under their fucking noses. What my family didn't know was that I'd been building wealth since my sophomore year of college. It started small, really small. I had $5,000 from academic scholarships and tutoring gigs, and I was tired of watching it sit in a checking account earning nothing. So I taught myself to trade, not day trading or crypto gambling or any of that get-rich-quick bullshit. Real investing. I read every book I could find, followed market analysts, studied financial statements until my eyes burned. I started with ETFs. Safe, diversified, boring, made 12% my first year, then I moved into individual stocks. Blue chips first, then smaller companies I'd researched extensively, made 18% my second year. By senior year, I was dabbling in REITs and industrial real estate, made 24%. After graduation, when I took the job at Whitmore & Co., I made a radical decision. I would live like I was making $30,000 a year instead of the $65,000 they were actually paying me. Same shitty apartment, same used Honda Civic, same Walmart clothes and grocery store brand everything. Every penny I didn't absolutely need for survival went into my investment portfolio. $35,000 a year, every year, for 7 years, but that was just the beginning. While my siblings were networking at charity galas and country club dinners, I was studying commercial real estate deals, learning about cap rates and cash-on-cash returns and debt service coverage ratios. While they were buying designer handbags and luxury cars, I was calculating how much down payment I needed for my first commercial property. Year 3, I bought a small industrial warehouse in Fort Worth, nothing fancy. Just a 15,000 square foot building with 3 solid tenants and a 7.8% cap rate. I put down $180,000 and financed the rest. Cash flow $2,400 a month after expenses. Year 5, I used the equity from the warehouse to buy a mid-rise office building in Austin. 8 floors, mostly tech startups, higher risk but higher returns. Put down $350,000. Cash flow $4,800 a month. Year 6, I started my own LLC, CW Holdings. Funneled all my real estate income through it, along with my stock portfolio returns. By year 7 this year, my net worth hit $18 million, $18 million, while my family thought I was a glorified receptionist making $65,000 a year. The irony was beautiful. Every day, I'd sit in my little office handling building management coordination for Whitmore & Co., while secretly managing a real estate portfolio worth more than most of their individual trust funds. I'd file lease agreements for our office space while calculating cash flow projections for my own properties. I'd coordinate maintenance schedules while reviewing acquisition opportunities that could make me richer than my siblings, and they had no fucking clue. "Claire, the coffee machine on the 4th floor is broken again," Elise would text me. I'd fix the coffee machine. Then I'd go home and review offers on a $3.2 million apartment complex in Houston. "Claire, we need 20 extra parking passes for the investor meeting," Nate would email. I'd handle the parking passes, then I'd analyze whether to refinance my warehouse at the new, lower interest rates. "Claire, can you coordinate catering for the board retreat?" Jack would ask. I'd coordinate the catering. Then I'd calculate how much passive income I'd made that day while ordering sandwich platters for people who thought I was beneath them. The daily humiliations became fuel. Every time someone assumed I was just the help, I'd invest another $1,000. Every time they talked over me in meetings, I'd research another property acquisition. Every time they introduced me as our Claire instead of our sister, I'd add another stock to my portfolio. The worst part wasn't the money, though. It was the casual dismissal of everything I was capable of. Last month, during a quarterly review meeting, Jack was discussing our expansion into Arizona real estate markets. "We need someone who understands commercial property management," he said. "Maybe we should hire a consultant." I was sitting right there taking notes. Invisible, I'd been managing commercial properties for 4 years. I own more commercial real estate than the company did. But Jack was talking about hiring a consultant because clearly, the woman who handled their coffee machine problems couldn't possibly understand commercial real estate. I didn't say anything, just smiled and took notes. But that night, I made an offer on a retail complex in Scottsdale, 15% above asking price, all cash, 7-day close. If they wanted to expand into Arizona, they could rent space from me. The psychological toll was getting harder to manage, though. Living a double life is exhausting. Pretending to be grateful for a $65,000 salary when you're making more than that in passive income every month. Nodding when people explain basic financial concepts to you while you're secretly managing an 8-figure portfolio. But the worst moments were the family dinners. Once a month, we'd all gather at the family estate for Sunday dinner. Dad would hold court, talking about business strategy and market opportunities. My siblings would discuss their latest achievements, their networking successes, their strategic wins. And I'd sit quietly listening, contributing nothing. Because what could I say? "Oh, interesting point about the Phoenix market, Jack. I just bought a retail complex there for $4.2 million cash." "That's a great insight about healthcare REITs, Nate. I've been analyzing a medical office building in Austin that would generate 8.5% returns." Fascinating approach to brand partnerships, Elise. "The office building I own in downtown Austin has 3 marketing agencies as tenants, and their lease negotiations taught me a lot about how these companies value space." I couldn't say any of that without revealing everything, and once I revealed everything, it would stop being mine. They'd find ways to make it theirs: joint ventures, family investment opportunities, strategic partnerships. I'd become the family bank instead of the family disappointment, so I stayed quiet, smiled when they talked about my sweet little job coordinating building maintenance, nodded when they discussed investment strategies I'd been using successfully for years. But inside, I was building something they couldn't touch, something that belonged completely to me, something that would shock them when they finally saw it. And I was getting close to being ready to show them. Because this month, opportunity knocked in a way I'd been waiting for since I made that promise to Mom 7 years ago. The building where Whitmore & Co. has its headquarters was going up for sale. Mid-City Tower, 34 floors of prime Dallas real estate. Whitmore & Co. leases 6 floors for their offices. They'd been tenants for 12 years. Paying $47,000 a month in rent for space they assumed would always be available. But the owner was retiring, selling to the highest bidder, private sale, no public listing. I'd gotten the alert through my commercial real estate network, same network my family didn't know I was part of. The asking price was $28 million. I had $22 million in liquid assets between my properties, stocks, and cash. I could make this work. I could buy the building where my family thought they were my bosses. I could become their landlord while they still thought I was their receptionist. The irony was so perfect it made my chest tight. I called my commercial lender that afternoon. "This is Claire Whitmore from CW Holdings. I need to discuss acquisition loan for a $28 million property." "Of course, Ms. Whitmore. When would you like to schedule a meeting?" Ms. Whitmore. Not Claire or Sweetie or our detail-oriented coordinator. Ms. Whitmore, I fucking loved the sound of that. The deal moved fast. Commercial real estate transactions always do when you have the cash and financing lined up. No inspections contingencies, no appraisal delays, no mortgage approval waiting periods. I offered $27.5 million through CW Holdings. All cash down payment of $8 million, financed the remaining $19. $5 million through my commercial lender at 4.2% interest. The seller accepted within 48 hours. Closing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, the same week as Whitmore & Co.'s 30th anniversary gala. The timing was so perfect it felt like the universe had a sense of humor. For 30 years, my family had built this company into something powerful and profitable. They were hosting a celebration in the building they'd leased for over a decade, inviting clients and investors and board members to commemorate their success. And I was going to own the building where they were celebrating. The 3 weeks between contract signing and closing were the longest of my life. I had to act normal while sitting on the biggest secret I'd ever kept. "Claire, we need extra security for the gala," Elise said during a planning meeting. "Can you coordinate with building management?" "Of course," I said. I made a note to coordinate with myself. "Claire, the caterers need access to the service elevators Jack mentioned. Make sure that's arranged." "No problem." I made another note to approve my own request. "Claire, we should confirm parking arrangements with the building owner," Nate added. "This is our biggest event of the year. I'll handle it personally." Because I would be, literally, the closer we got to closing day, the more surreal it became. I was buying a $28 million building while my family planned a party to celebrate their success in that same building, and they had no idea their coordinator was about to become their landlord. Closing day was a Tuesday. I took a personal day from work, telling them I had a dentist appointment. Instead, I sat in a conference room with lawyers, lenders, and real estate agents, signing documents that transferred ownership of Mid-City Tower to CW Holdings. The seller shook my hand as we exchanged keys. "Congratulations, Ms. Whitmore, you're now the owner of one of Dallas's premier commercial properties." I drove home with the deed in my briefcase and a secret that was burning a hole in my chest. The gala was 3 days away. I spent those 3 days in a weird state of calm, like the eye of a hurricane where everything is still but you know chaos is coming. I helped coordinate final preparations, confirmed catering details, arranged parking, checked security protocols for an event happening in my building. Friday night arrived faster than I expected. The Mid-City Tower lobby was transformed. Elegant lighting, flower arrangements, bars set up in corners, a jazz quartet playing background music, 200 guests in cocktail attire, networking and celebrating 30 years of Whitmore & Co. success. I arrived in my usual understated fashion, navy blue dress from Nordstrom Rack, minimal jewelry, a black leather portfolio folder in my hand. Nothing that would draw attention. I'd learned to be invisible. Tonight, I'd use that skill one last time. My siblings were in their element. Jack working the room in his custom tuxedo, Elise stunning in designer everything, Nate actually smiling while discussing market projections with investors. They introduced me to guests the same way they always did. "This is our sister Claire. She keeps everything running smoothly behind the scenes. Claire handles all our coordination and logistics. We'd be lost without Claire managing the details." I smiled, nodded, made polite conversation, but my hand never left the portfolio folder. The program included dinner, networking, and a family vision presentation where Jack would talk about the next 30 years of company growth. I waited through dinner, through the networking, through the first part of Jack's speech about legacy and innovation and building on our father's foundation. Then he got to the part where he acknowledged family contributions. Each member of the Whitmore family brings unique strengths to our success, Jack said into the microphone, gesturing toward where Elise, Nate, and I stood off to the side. Elise has revolutionized our marketing and brand presence. Nate has optimized our financial strategies and risk management. He looked at me with that same patronizing smile I'd endured for 7 years. Even Claire has contributed. I believe she managed some front desk renovations last quarter. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Polite, indulgent laughter from people who saw me as the family member who handled minor details. This was it. This was the moment I'd been building toward for 7 years. I walked toward the microphone. Jack looked surprised but stepped aside, probably assuming I wanted to say a few words about being grateful for the opportunity to work with such an amazing family. I opened my portfolio folder. Thank you, Jack, I said into the microphone. My voice was steady, calm, clear. You're right that I've been managing some property renovations. I pulled out a document, the deed to Mid-City Tower, stamped and filed with Dallas County. But I should clarify something. That front desk you mentioned, it belongs to me now, so do the floors you work on, so does this entire building. The room went quiet, not polite quiet, dead quiet. I bought Mid-City Tower 3 weeks ago through my company, CW Holdings. I held up the deed so the company lawyer could see it from his table near the front. Mr. Henderson, would you mind verifying this document for everyone? Robert Henderson, the family lawyer who'd known me since I was a child, took the deed with shaking hands. He read it carefully, his face going pale. This appears to be a legitimate deed transfer. Claire Whitmore is listed as the owner of Mid-City Tower through CW Holdings LLC. The silence stretched longer. Jack's mouth was open. Elise had gone completely still. Nate was staring at me like I'd just spoken in ancient Greek. I know this might come as a surprise, I continued, my voice still calm, but I wanted to address any concerns about the lease renewal. Whitmore & Co. has been an excellent tenant for 12 years. I'm happy to continue that relationship. Someone in the crowd started whispering. Then more whispers, then a low buzz of confused conversation. However, I added, going forward, all lease negotiations, building maintenance requests, and tenant concerns will need to go through CW Holdings Property Management Division. I closed the portfolio folder. I just wanted to clarify the ownership structure before we continue celebrating tonight. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. I handed the microphone back to Jack, who took it automatically, still staring at me like I was a stranger. The crowd was buzzing now, conversations breaking out at every table, guests pulling out phones to Google CW Holdings and Claire Whitmore. I walked back to my spot near the wall and waited. It took about 30 seconds for the shock to wear off and the questions to start. Nate was the first to reach me. What the fuck, Claire? Language, Nate, we're at a company event. You bought this building, how, when, with what money? 3 weeks ago with my money. Elise appeared next, her perfectly composed expression cracking. This is a joke, right? Some kind of anniversary surprise? I handed her a copy of the deed. Not a joke. Jack finally snapped out of his shock and joined us, his face red with what I assumed was embarrassment. Claire, we need to talk. Privately now, we're talking now, I mean without 200 people watching. I looked around the room, every guest was pretending to have conversations while actually straining to overhear our family drama. Okay, but let's finish the program first. You still have 20 minutes left on your speech. Jack stared at me. You want me to finish my speech after you just announced you own our building? It's a good speech. You should finish it. That's when I realized something had fundamentally changed. For 7 years, when Jack told me to do something, I did it. When Elise asked me to handle something, I handled it. When Nate needed something coordinated, I coordinated it. But now, standing in my building, holding the deed that proved I wasn't just the family coordinator, I felt different. I felt like I could say no. I felt like I belonged here. Not as the helpful sister who handled details, as an owner, as someone who'd built something worth respecting. Actually, I said, looking at my siblings, I think I'm done taking orders for tonight. I walked away from them toward the bar, leaving them standing together in the middle of their anniversary gala, in my building. For the first time in 7 years, I ordered myself a drink and stood in a room full of business people as an equal. Not as Claire the coordinator, as Claire the owner. It felt fucking amazing. The aftermath was everything I'd imagined and nothing I'd prepared for. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of whispered conversations, shocked stares, and my siblings alternating between damage control and trying to corner me for explanations. I stayed until the end, shook hands with guests who suddenly wanted to know more about my investment strategy and my business plans, listened to board members hint about opportunities for collaboration, but mostly I watched my family scramble to process what had just happened. Jack tried to finish his speech but kept losing his train of thought. Elise spent most of the evening making calls, probably to her PR contacts, trying to figure out how to spin the story. Nate disappeared entirely for an hour, presumably running numbers and trying to understand how I'd financed a $28 million purchase. When the last guest left and the catering crew finished cleaning up, it was just the 4 of us in the empty lobby of my building. Okay, Jack said, loosening his tie. What the hell was that? That was me buying the building where you work. You know what I mean? Why didn't you tell us? How long have you been planning this? Is this some kind of revenge play? Revenge, interesting choice of words. Revenge for what? For, I don't know, for not including you in strategic decisions, for treating you like. He couldn't finish the sentence. Like what, Jack? Like the family coordinator. Like the sister who handles details while you make real decisions? Elise stepped closer, her voice careful and controlled. Claire, we never meant to make you feel excluded. You know we value your contributions. My contributions, right? Like managing front desk renovations. The silence stretched uncomfortable. Nate, ever practical, cut to the heart of the matter. How much are you worth? That's a personal question. You just bought a $28 million building. It's not that personal anymore. Fair point. Enough. Enough for what? Enough to not need your approval anymore. That landed like a slap. Nate's face went dark. You've been lying to us for years, living some kind of double life while we thought you were. While you thought I was what? Grateful for the job you gave me? Content to coordinate building maintenance for the rest of my life. We thought you were family. I am family, I just didn't realize being family meant being invisible. Jack tried a different approach. His voice went soft, conciliatory. Claire, I get that you're upset, and maybe we haven't always appreciated your potential, but this feels extreme. We could have worked together on this. We could have structured it as a family investment. If I had told you about it, you would have found a way to make it yours. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time any of you asked my opinion about a business decision? When's the last time you included me in strategic planning? When's the last time you introduced me as your business partner instead of your coordinator? They didn't have answers for that. I needed this to be mine, I continued. Not ours, mine. Elise tried next, her tone shifting to something that sounded almost like respect. Okay, I understand wanting independence, but what now? Are you planning to evict us, raise our rent, use this as leverage against the company? I haven't decided yet. That was a lie, I'd already decided, but I wanted them to worry for a while. Claire, Jack said, his CEO voice returning, we need to discuss this properly. As a family and as business partners, let's schedule a meeting for Monday. We can figure out how to move forward together. I don't think so. What do you mean you don't think so? I mean, I don't think we need to figure out how to move forward together. I think you need to figure out how to move forward as tenants in my building. The word tenants hit them like a physical blow. For 7 years, they'd been the bosses and I'd been the employee. Now I was the landlord and they were the tenants. Are you serious right now? Nate's voice was getting louder. You're going to play power games with your own family? I'm not playing games, I'm running a business. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Elise said, her composure finally cracking. Money changes people, power corrupts people. You've been hiding this double life, lying to us for years, and now you want to lord it over us. I want to be treated like an equal. You want to be treated like a victim. That stung, but it also clarified something for me. You know what? You're right, I did feel like a victim. For 7 years, I felt like the family disappointment who was grateful for whatever scraps of respect you threw my way. I picked up my purse and the portfolio folder. But I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a property owner with $18 million in assets and a growing commercial real estate portfolio. Their faces went slack at the number. 18 million, Jack whispered. $18 million built while you thought I was answering phones and fixing coffee machines. I walked toward the elevator. Claire, wait. Elise's voice was different now. Less condescending. Can we start over? Maybe we haven't been fair to you. Maybe we could find ways to work together that respect what you've built. I stopped and turned around. You want to work together now? We want to understand what happened, how you did this, what you want going forward. What I want is for you to stop assuming I need your guidance. What I want is for you to stop introducing me as the sister who handles logistics. What I want is for you to recognize that I'm not the family coordinator anymore. Then what are you? I stepped into the elevator. I'm your landlord. The doors closed on their shocked faces. I rode up to the 34th floor, the top floor of my building, and walked out onto the rooftop terrace that came with the property. The Dallas skyline spread out below me, lights glittering in office windows, traffic flowing through downtown streets, the whole city alive and moving. Somewhere down there, my siblings were probably still standing in the lobby, trying to process what had just happened, trying to figure out how the family coordinator had become the family power player. Trying to understand how they'd missed the fact that their little sister had built an empire while they thought she was filing lease agreements. My phone started buzzing, text messages, Jack, we need to talk, this doesn't have to be adversarial. Elise, I'm proud of you for what you've accomplished. Let's find a way to move forward as family. Nate, can you send me financial statements for CW Holdings? I want to understand your portfolio. I turned off my phone. I didn't owe them explanations. I didn't owe them collaboration. I didn't owe them anything except the professional landlord-tenant relationship they'd earned. For 7 years, I'd kept my promise to Mom. I'd stayed close to family. I'd held them together by making myself small enough to fit into whatever role they needed me to fill. But Mom had also told me they needed me more than they knew. She'd been right. They just hadn't realized it yet. Now they did. The next Monday, I arrived at work my building at my usual time, but instead of going to my little office on the 2nd floor, I took the elevator to the 32nd floor, to the executive suite I'd had converted over the weekend. CW Holdings now had its headquarters in Mid-City Tower. Same building as Whitmore & Co., but 2 floors higher. My assistant was waiting with coffee and the morning reports. Good morning, Ms. Whitmore. The Q1 financial statements are ready for your review. Ms. Whitmore, I'd never get tired of hearing that. Thank you, Sarah. Any messages? Your brother Jack called. He'd like to schedule a meeting about lease terms. Your sister Elise left several voicemails about potential collaboration opportunities, and your brother Nate sent a formal request for financial disclosure documents. I sipped my coffee and looked out the window at the city I was slowly buying piece by piece. Draft a response to Jack about scheduling a lease negotiation meeting. Professional terms only. Tell Elise that CW Holdings doesn't need marketing services at this time. And send Nate a copy of our standard tenant information packet. Of course, anything else? Yes, can you have building maintenance check the coffee machine on the fourth floor? I believe it's been having issues. Sarah made a note. I'll have someone look at it immediately. I leaned back in my chair in my office, in my building, and smiled. For 7 years, I'd fixed their coffee machine, now I owned it. The promise I'd made to Mom hadn't been broken. I was still close to family. I still saw everything. I was still holding them together. I just wasn't doing it from the position of grateful family coordinator anymore. I was doing it from the position of successful business owner who happened to be related to her tenants. And if they wanted to rebuild our relationship on terms of mutual respect instead of condescending tolerance, they knew where to find me. I'd be on the 32nd floor, running my empire. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If this story hit you in the feels or the spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more real-life revenge on Revenge Drive.